Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me again on this instalment, which is actually part 5. Now part 5 of this instalment is actually coming from a really well-known speaker called Waridi Pabst. She's South African as well, and she has quite a lot of input on a lot of stuff, so I do hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to press that notification bell so that you get all the notifications on the upcoming videos that will be coming very shortly. So thanks very much for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video.
And today what we are talking about in this session with Waridi Pabst is actually relationships, and so this is quite exciting to start this session. Thank you for being with us today, Waridi. Would you do me the favor and introduce yourself, because I think you can always do it best.
Thank you, Cordula. My name is Waridi Warda, and I am a founder and CEO of Fashion Africa 254, a company based in Berlin, and also known as a Vogue Germany contributor for Africa / fashion expert, fashion advocate for Africa. And thank you.
Yes, this is a really good start. And now you've already introduced a little bit that you are the CEO and the founder of Fashion 245. And I think what the audience will really be interested to know, and also just everyone watching, is what does the company do in the bigger spectrum?
First of all, FA 254, I love numbers. I was good in maths. So when the idea came for me to do my company, Fashion Africa 254, 2 basically is the code you call Africa. So the whole continent is +2, and the 54 countries that exist in the continent. So our work, our motto basically is changing minds and rebranding Africa, bridging between Germany and African countries and vice versa. Okay, great that you also explained the name. I love that. I didn't know that about the numbers, and that they stand actually for Africa. Yeah. And you also mentioned that you are the contributor for Africa for Vogue. So I think this one will definitely also come up later in our interview again. But what we always like to just take it a step back, and then also go back into the humble beginnings, if you want to call it that, and see where our founders or our entrepreneurs or experts started, because everyone has to start somewhere. And when I did research obviously about your journey and your background, you started out as a fashion model, and maybe this was also your entry point into the fashion industry. But do you want to tell us a little bit about these early beginnings of your career journey, and also just your entrepreneurial journey? Sure. So I'm born Kenyan. My parents and family are still in Kenya, and my journey as a model started basically not in Kenya. While in Kenya, I was just dreaming, and this is the part where I I grew up also as a Muslim girl, so it was very strict even to think about, for me to even have that in my mind. But that said, it started by my aunt. Basically, she was a tailor, and she would always try the people she made their clothes try on me. So I grew up quite fast. I was a tall girl. So already from 15 years old, she was like using me as a mannequin. At that time, I didn't know I'm a mannequin. I was just like, okay, come put this on, we try on you, and fitting and all that. And actually it started basically there, when I think about it, to really think like, oh, I'm a model, I'm already a mannequin. And that's how my journey started in my head, but I could not speak it out. So when I left, I went to Arabia to stay with my cousins in Abu Dhabi. And I was working in a school. My background, I studied accountancy. So I was working in the school, and this woman told me, do you know you could be a model? And I was thinking in my head, I know that, but I can't. And she said, well, I do organize fashion shows in the boutique for the Arab women, and I would like you to be a model. And that's basically how it started. And then I did boutique fashion shows, and there she told me, if you want to go further, then you have to get away from here. So that's how my journey started. And I worked for 2 years and put my money together, saved it to fly to London, basically following my journey without, you can ask me if my family allowed. I basically ran away to follow my career and believing in myself, and took off to London and started my modeling career.
Okay, that's definitely a wild change for if you've always lived in Kenya and then moved over by yourself to London. So that one is also one that can be brought in association with entrepreneurship, because the next question is, I do know that there's a lot of components and factors in the modeling career also that then can help you on your later on journey in entrepreneurship. So in all these following years where you worked as a model, probably internationally in a lot of countries, do you think there were certain things that already then prepared you to have more skills, to have a different mindset of looking at things?
Well, definitely as a model, what people undermine is that, everybody must be getting something out of it. For me, was basically, I just loved material, so, and while you have that connecting with the, with beautiful clothes, with creative minds, and the designers, also you are creating, you're part of the creation. So you don't stop thinking for yourself where you're playing that part, just besides being a model, showing and not speaking. So this is how I started to basically having my creation in my head. If I would go out of this business of as a model and I want to do something more, my mind never stops thinking, especially on the creative side. So I just thought that I would love to communicate with fashion to bring it to another level. And basically this is the journey taught me a lot in observing and how to really, if you want to make a difference, what you can create to bring it to another level. So I really appreciate that journey, which basically, as I was in New York, and from New York ended up in Germany, continued modeling in Germany. So I started to really connect also to platforms in Germany at that time, started from Düsseldorf, then and around Germany. And so all the connection you go, you also are collecting your, so to say, your future reference to work with in respect. And wherever you go, you just like leave something also that the people know your how dedicated you are, how professional you are. And I always tell, even now when I'm mentoring, that important is your uniqueness, and which is 75% of you. And then the 20% is your profession, to be professional, and 5% is luck. And this is, I always carry that with me and take it to the next journey that I want to be involved in.
Yeah, the next journey or the next stage. Yeah, that sounds, you mentioned connections, and that you made a lot of connections, and how relationships are important to foster, to build, and so on. And so my question is, and I think you answered it a little bit already, that were you able to already build these relationships in this part of your career to then take it to the next level when you also weren't working as a model, when you're working on other projects? What do you think, how was this process of building relationships, long-lasting ones that go above your career as a model?
For sure, my career as a model, which brought me, if I can say, fame into also, and respect that then being asked with the platform that I'm connected with, for example, where my journey started changing with a fashion school, S100 fashion school here in Berlin. I first started to be asked to appear, and then to be a jury member, and then to be to give my opinions during the jury member time. And through my opinions, they saw the potential that I had, and which also, without even thinking much, you develop something else out of it. And that's how I started to create ideas, initiate topics with the fashion school. And this then started to really bring me where I am now. So since 2000, so I've been working with and initiating ideas with the fashion school for first year students. And this basically also was like what they call snowball, which really rolled from one topic and really becoming bigger, and rolls into my company now, Fashion Africa 254.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to lead into that anyway. So then 2013, you started your company, and I'm sure that the steps before led up to that, but could you tell us a bit about where did the idea come? When did you initially think about starting it?
So basically, while I was working with the S100 Fashion School, and there I also was researching a lot on the African topics, material. I started to meet the African designers. Then I started to be involved, to be again in Africa, to be either a representative for the European markets, or to be a jury member, or to moderate and curate and jury member. So all this started to come also around the continent, and while I was doing that, I saw that through all the years, the knowledge and experience I've had, being asked to be part of the change in the industry there. Mm-hmm. And I thought there was, and I always, wherever I go, I always look at the gap. And I saw the gap was there, that basically there were talented young people or designers, but there was a gap of basically most of the designers were self-taught, didn't go to the colleges or managed to, or they come from other creative position and think, okay, I want to be a designer, I'm talented, so I do my collection. So this is where then the idea for Fashion Africa 254 came, that we want to do training, and then from the training we bring in the ones we see that are qualifying through the training to be into the international market, and then we basically bridge them to the German-speaking countries. And this is basically how the idea came. And I thought, you know, instead of always trying to be in different projects, I create one, and through this also on top, where I stamped about the company, is through also the years I've been put to do charity projects for Africa. Mm-hmm. And to basically be ambassador for different projects. And I was thinking through my journey being in Africa, going back to Africa, when I say Africa, to Ethiopia, Rwanda, Kenya mostly, and most the East African and South Africa part, I just thought, you know, I really want to show the other side of Africa, because Africa is not just about poverty and disability and this other side that people are confronted or related to. And that's when I decided to make a change. I need to be one of the change makers and rebrand Africa. And that's when I had the big passion and motivation to found FA254.
Okay, this is a really great story. And I think us as a company that first started off in South Africa, we also resonate, because we do want to also portray a different image, the one of female entrepreneurship in our case, that is also a bit away from sometimes maybe the biased or cliched version of poverty and disability. We want to enable in the best case, which I think is what you're doing with the company and all these fashion designers and young entrepreneurs and fashion entrepreneurs as well. So you started back in 2013, so now the company is about 7 years old. And so how was what was your first year like? They always say also the first year in business is tricky. You were obviously a single founder, so this was kind of you and it was all your brainchild. Is there any advice that you could take from these kind of, I would say, first and second year of business?
What I learned is focusing. And during those beginning of the year, I really first started really the most difficult thing, that before training, I decided that I want to bring 15 African designers, top designers, to a luxury store, Lodenfrei in Munich. And which basically was really like trying to bring mountain from Africa to Germany. And I was so determined because I wanted to show the change and the difference that is existing in the industry, and not that Africa can deliver and there is quality and there is design. So I was so determined to invest my own part of money and time to really make this happen, and also to be trusted that what I said it is what I'm saying, which did take a turn. Of course, we had a textile magazine. It's like economy magazine. I don't know if you know it. Textile Wirtschaft wrote about the project in Lodenfrei, and this is basically not many companies easily are written in this magazine. So I thought, okay, I've made it, and it was really a tough journey. But also there, I saw that the gap again. I had to invest so much to make something happen. So how do I avoid by investing, and yet the gap I'm working on is basically not only it's investing in the people, and also there's a value and impact that comes out of it. So with those, and then this 2 years really was kind of more working, and I work with solutions, so working with solutions. And then back to your question is like, what can I give advice? It's basically so important first to really focus on one thing, and then from there really something else to come out of it. For me, what I was trying to do was, as I mentioned, bringing a mountain to Germany, and was like, okay, I can't do that. The mountains can stay in Africa, and I can gain out of it, and also the other side can get, the designers, so to say, can gain out of it in a more powerful way than trying to force something that is not really, how would I say, basically for the company is exhausting, and for the team, and which is important. The team has to enjoy, the team has to be feeling there's something coming out of it. So how do we do more? Let's expand, you know. So, but I had trust in my team, and it's really basically, until today, I still work with the people who I started with. And
oh, that is very nice. Yeah. 7 years. That's a great journey together.
Yeah.
You mentioned that this one publication in Textilwirtschaft was kind of a little bit of your kickstart, or it kickstarted it. It was the one thing that happened as a success story in the beginning. Do you think, was there anything, because a lot of founders and entrepreneurs looking for this first thing that can help them?
Actually, Textilwirtschaft in both Germany wrote.
Oh wow! Okay, so both of them got really good publications.
Our relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then that leads me back to relationships. Do you think this was mainly to you building good relationships so that that then was possible to get these kind of publications? And how do people use their relationships wisely so they can also make that first jump?
Yeah, I think relationship is very important. When I was nominated with a fashion platform in Kenya to be a representative for the designers in Europe, and it took me 5 years to really, or 6, to really use the relationship. Use sounds very not correct, negative. To be, how do I connect with the relationships I had made through my journey in a positive way? So I really had to, it's very important to see if it fits. Otherwise, you will lose the chance to use that relationship again because somehow it didn't really work, you know, like for example, with Lodenfry, the relationship became stronger, even though maybe they didn't know the side backs I was having, and I just gave them success and not all the struggle I was going through. And basically, when you bring up the quality you are promising to bring, it definitely keeps the relationship in a respective way, you know. So so even with Vogue, you know, the Vogue, to see I brought quality and design, and it's like, wow. And then, you know, so if I go back and ask, look, I have something, they look at it and open, the door is open for you, you know. So you it's very important how you can really channel the relationship you have and not use it at the right moment, and then it can only bring more out of it for you.
Yeah, that is a really good advice, because we also have in the Future Females team, we have also built some relationships with our partners, and it also took quite long. So I think it's good to mention that to people who might have an expectation that really strong relationships, they build over time, and that, as you can say, take up to 5 years, as you said, for you in Kenya to then be fruitful.
Yeah.
And I think because we talked a bit about your first success stories, and that's always something that is exciting. And I think what some entrepreneurs can learn from is if there was any failures or challenges and how you have personally dealt with them. This could have been lately in the business or also in the beginning. And often other people can really learn from these mistakes.
Yeah. The failure basically is that I see from all the projects I've done. The second year, actually, I had a project with eBay Fashion, and so what I do, I put the concept together with 10 designers. I choose 10 designers and I put the concept together, and I made a proposal to eBay Fashion how to sponsor this project for 1 year. And through that, I involved the eBay Fashion to be part of also creating the product, and that they can also feel involved and not just like I'm working behind the end and just giving them the product, which was really intensive. They learned a lot from me and from my team, and we learned a lot from them. And so, and through this journey, what my learning was that I asked for 1 year support. But this 1 year, and then executed 4 designers into eBay retail store, which basically then the campaign goes for a short time, and then so the sales really doesn't happen the way it should, and then also then the designers fall back. So that through this failure showed me that if I go to the next project, I have to ask for more years and not just 1 year, because you can't achieve anything in 1 year for both sides. So this is one of the things that is very important for me, continuity and there is a continuation and in a relationship for a longer time than just 1 year. And because you go back again with another idea concept, then it reflects, okay, we had so much success, but you know, we had such certain failure. So how do we work with that, you know? And yeah, so I hope I answered your question.
No, definitely. So you one of the things you would have done differently maybe is ask for, in this case, for a longer runway. And as you said, also as relationships take time to build, this project would have taken a bit longer than just a year to give, I guess, the African sellers also the best possible beginnings as a retailer and so on. And I think what people are also interested in, if you really facilitate a lot of relationships between Africa and European, in Europe as a country, but also Europeans, and there is sometimes these things, relationships can also be cultural, or there can be challenges in intercultural communication. Is there anything that you have noticed while you were trying to connect the dots, or while you were working to really bring Africa to Europe? Was it always easy, or have you just gotten an expert in it over the last years?
Well, I think, of course, that's where also to be a contributor with Vogue Germany is basically also, I live and I've, let's say, lived in Africa, and on the mentality of Africans, I understand, and that's back where you say with the culture, and I've lived here in Europe, and I also understand the mentality. So I'm in a privilege where I can speak with both mentalities, and this is where my contribution with Vogue is like, I can speak both languages, and yet still have its spirit and of both sides without conflicting any side in a political way or whatever way you say. As I mentioned in the beginning, also one of my slogans was is changing minds. And that was that thing where the cultural, where you're mentioning, is like how to understand the mind. When I work with the designers, I said, this is how the Germans think, you know. For Germans, first important is quality. And then they look at the price, you know. If you don't have quality and you have your price there, and then they see it's from Africa, they don't even want to pay that price because they think it's being made in the market. And I then also say to the German platform, I said, okay, so because I want to prove Africa is efficient, Africa has quality and design, but I tell them, okay, they can give you quality and the design, but they cannot give you quantity. So, because with what they have, if you want 100 pieces at that time in 2014, you will get 100 pieces, but expect to have different colors. So this is also to make them a bit opener in their mind, and to say, okay, I have 100 pieces, 25 is blue and 25 is pink or yellow, but it's the style. So just to be a bit more open and to make the understanding of what is existing on the other side, and also the other side to understand the expectation from both sides, so to say.
Yeah. So you facilitated the communication and made it, because you were understanding both sides, obviously. And I think that's very important also when facilitating, building and fostering these relationships. And one thing that you're also an expert of, I think, is the fashion industry. And I do know that a lot of our community members do also, to some extent, work or want to work in the fashion industry. So that could be as an African designer, as a designer based in Europe, having an online shop or having a design product that they want to launch, or wanting to be actually a freelancer working in the fashion space. So what would be your tips for someone who is now quite young, or not even young, but just start aiming for this career and starting out in the fashion industry? Is there any tips that you can generally give them?
Sure. First thing, you can connect with me personally. I mean personally with Fashion Africa 254, because we're not just in this way working with, let's say, Africa. For me, Africa is not black. Africa is color. It's you, me, and a black person. So if there is any basically a deeper consulting or to look at your product or your idea, open to look at that for the future females who are part of the platform. And well, basically what I also say to the designers in Africa, that fashion now anyway is really becoming more how we say complex, and we all have to really even think, why, if you want to be a designer or be in fashion, what more are you giving that is needed? During this time, you've seen or you should see what is needed and what is basically not needed. I mean, why create something or bring in more when we don't need it? So it's to find out really what valuable thing are you bringing in, and with an impact to the fashion, which will make a difference. Otherwise, even I always say, in fashion, that is so broad. It's not just about clothing. You can do so many other things in the fashion part. You should see what is your uniqueness, your uniqueness that is there. Is it that 75% to go into the fashion brand or industry? If it's just a love of fashion because you love to dress, you style, then you can be a stylist, So there are many branches to fashion: photography, makeup artist, illustrator, and there's broader. So it's first important is check your uniqueness, and if there is something unique you're going to do, then it is making sense to go into it.
Yeah,
but
thank
not
you for
just
that.
Another one.
That is a really good one for everyone who's now longing to go into the fashion industry. Or if you're an African designer, then really reach out. And I think that also leads us to one of our almost last questions. So I think now you mentioned it, that African designers can reach out to you. So also, what's the vision or what's coming up next for your company? Is there anything interesting that people can get excited about? I know you had certain webinars, you had some programs launch in August. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, basically from September, middle of September, we will have our new website. And also, like everyone in the business, you have refocus how to continue. Also, as with the traveling issue, I cannot travel to Africa like I did before 9 times a year. So what is our focus? And this is also after 7 years, we are now coming from being that to focus. As you know, I have published a book in 2016 with a famous photographer from Italy, Daniele Damanghi, who unfortunately died in 2017. My book was the last project he did. So my focus is going to be to continue the conversation of the book with the podcast. And then also going to, with the designers, going one step further. Like before we were training and then bridging the designer to German market, but we are going to concentrate on brands and do collaboration with German platforms. And this is our new approach to our work.
Okay, awesome. I think that's something really exciting, and excited to listen to your podcast also in the future. It's interesting to turning the book or continuing the work that was done with the book in a podcast, in an audio format, which is also really nice. And on your personal side, is there anything personal for you as Waridi that's coming up?
Well, sorry. I love surprises and being spontaneous. I'll surprise you. I'm happy to be part of Future Females, and yeah, I have. I'm just on now. Personal surprises is like Future Females to be on this to talk to you. These are the kind of thing, speaking in different platforms is something I love, and to share, to inspire women, younger women, all women, because we all have our stories, and through these stories we can only learn more from each other and feel empowered and even motivated in whatever journey that you're going through. So for me personally, this is very important now.
Yeah, that is very important. And we are excited to see and hear more of you. And we're going to see you, I'm sure, on the podcast, but also in your column, obviously, on Vogue, and with all the African brands and what you're doing with them next. So thank you so much for being part of our Make It Happen Summit. I'm really glad we could make this one happen and have you. And I'm sure we will be in touch, and people can find all the information around, and we will link it in the interview notes, so they can find you on all the different sites and about your book project and also upcoming projects. So really, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Cordula. It was really a pleasure.